Hey, what's going on YouTube? I am back with another story time, and if you do enjoy these story times, please like, subscribe, ring that bell. In any case, this is a more recent story actually. So I made a little short clip of one of the bongs I made a long time ago. I have a huge collection of bongs I've made, and I've just wanted to sort of build up little short clips of me hitting them. And this one was of a milk jug. I'll have like a link in the description and whatnot. But basically, I just wanted to do a nice fat rip out of this Adore half-gallon milk jug. It's just a nice giant piece. It's such a personal piece of my collection that I will definitely be passing down generation to generation on this one. But it's just a heavy hitter kind of bong. It's one that just the way you have to hit it, it gets your lungs hard. But basically, I just want to do a fat rip video, thinking nothing too much of it. I got some of my nice weed ground up. Wasn't even that big of a bowl. I just wanted to have like a nice huge rip out of it to show for. And I took the hit and everything seemed, fine until I got all of that smoke out of my lungs, and it just felt like, when those hits, your lung just, I would say, like, collapses. Like, that's a terrible thing. That's like a medical incident at that point. But it definitely, I felt the hit to the lungs there. It was pretty hefty. It was smooth going through, but it was just once my lungs were fully empty, it hurt. Like, I could feel both my lungs just stinging, burning. But basically, I thought everything was fine, it was a basic, hit of weed. I had this stuff before. It was perfectly fine previously, so I didn't really think too much of it. And so I go, after I'm done hitting and whatnot, I just immediately start trying to, throw it in the editor, start working on it, get it ready for an upload real quick. Lo and behold, what the rest of the night would handle there. I try and go in OBS. I start to remix it into an MP4, and then it starts to really kick in. Basically, I started to really feel the head high a bit. I was starting to zone out. I could feel my depth perception a little bit on the screen, the words were a little blurry, more blurry than normal. And then I just could really feel a nice head high coming on, and I couldn't keep a train of thought really at that moment. And so I was like, okay, maybe I should just, take a breather, take a moment. I'm gonna let it remix. That takes half a second. It was a short video, so it doesn't take any time, but I'm just gonna sit down, take a break. And man, when I sat down, it's like I collapsed on the couch behind me. I just sat there, and then I realized I can't get back up. It hit me at that point that heavy edible high. All of a sudden the body high just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I literally couldn't move. I had a very similar thing with the THCO. So that's when I realized oh wait, I kind of have been chiefing on the cart all day with my Delta 8 THCO mix. And I did take a good hefty about 5-6 puffs of it before taking this fat rip. And then it kind of dawns on me oh wait, this is having a different kind of interaction. This is different. It just basically that THCO body high, it just basically, I was just glued to that couch for a moment. And then the head high really kicked in. I started staring at all my screens in the background, and I was getting that very kind of similar to the first time I threw up from weed. It was reminding me that of a bit. So I was like, oh man, this is cool. And it basically was ramping up even more slowly. And then it started to reverberate back to the body high. The body high started turning into this almost, it reminded me of an opiate type of body high. It was weird. I started feeling that the way some people describe like heroin and whatnot is like, you know, you're getting squished with warm marshmallows. You're getting like this giant warm hug around you, and like all those aches and pains just kind of like melt away with it. And that's pretty much what I felt. It was just this like nice, cozy, like all of a sudden just all my like any ache and pain was gone. It was literally like the heaviest type of, like heavier really than any opioid I'd ever taken. It was crazy. Like I didn't understand it, because I've had some good body highs, but I've never had weed match like the similarity of an opioid high. Like sometimes weed, like the way the body high actually works better for pain for me than an opiate, but this was like beyond that. This was like both beyond what an opiate could do and what normally would happen to me. And I just like melted into it, and I just kind of realized like I'm in for the ride here. I'm kind of strapped in. I literally couldn't get up. I was stuck, paralyzed essentially. It was just, I was glued to the couch. So I'm just staring there, sitting, watching, my screen, just zoning out. Looking like some drugged out weirdo just on this freaking crazy binge, and just sitting there wide-eyed, like almost like I'm like, one would think like slumped over, like nodding off, but in reality my eyes were like wide open at the same time. Like think of someone nodding off, but their eyes are just like staring off in the distance, wide open. That's kind of how I looked. And it just like the visuals of like my wall, and then matching the computer screens going back and forth, and it was just like reverberating between the body high and this head high going back and forth, and it was just ramping up slowly but surely. And I had about a good probably half hour, probably 40 minutes of that actually, where I was just like kind of sitting on the couch, just kind of soaking it in, getting higher, and being like, this is uncomfortable, but I'm clearly going up and up, and I'm not peaking here. I just gotta enjoy the ride as it is. So I'm just trying to enjoy it. And then that peak hits, and for that giant peak that it was, where it was just beyond any body high that I've experienced, and the visuals were definitely, the head high was kin, like really just those nostalgia buttons for it were hitting me from like high school and whatnot, getting high. It was nice. But then once it peaked, that's when the crash started to happen. That's when things went a little eerie. So I started to get that sort of nauseous feeling in my gut, and it was like, I don't feel so hot. It started to like, a lot of that, the body high feeling was waned off. Like it basically just pretty much mostly subsided, just pretty much just glued still, but not getting that like warm, like kind of cushiony type of feeling. And I just started to feel nauseous and gross, and just all of a sudden I was getting warmer and warmer, and I knew some of those side effects were from the THCO. Like something had to, in that weed, whatever mixture of cannabinoids it was, somehow made like the bioavailability of the THCO I'd been building up that day just really kick into high gear, and like some other cannabinoids interacting with each other, doing the similar thing with the head high. Just like, I don't know, I could tell like different cannabinoids were making them that much more exponentially powerful, and it was just hitting me in such a funky way. And once that crash was happening with it, I started getting almost like a kind of like when you're just like too sick off of alcohol, you get the spins a little bit, you get that nauseousness, and you just, like you probably need some water. So like I was like, okay, let me work my way up to standing up and whatnot. And eventually I like mentally got myself in a way where like I was able to move my arms again, so that was fine. So then I got up, and it still felt that heaviness, but not like literally glued to the couch. So I was able to like in that moment get up, and that's like the motion sickness, just that movement made me so nauseous in that moment. I was like, okay, I need some water. This cottonmouth's hitting me. So I go out, I grab a glass, like I go to the kitchen, grab a glass, get some water. I drink one probably like 12-ounce glass of water, and then it just like the spins hit me and the nausea hits me, and I'm in this like I didn't turn the lights on. I just left it pitch black. I figured having lights on probably wasn't going to help me, so I just like it just hit me all at once in this like pitch black room basically, and the heaviness comes right back in, and I just go, okay, I need to lay down. And it's a laminate floor in the kitchen, so it's nice and cool compared to like the carpet and whatnot. And I'd gone through my fair share of bad trip moments where I'm like, okay, I need to cool my body down, and I've been able to do it just by laying on like old concrete or hardwood or just something other than carpet. And this was like perfect for the moment. So I just feel the gravity and weight, and I just lay in the kitchen. Probably, I don't know, it could have been like another half hour or so. Time kind of like I stopped paying attention to the clock so much as just trying to pay attention to the symptoms and just trying to like work my way through this trip here. So I just kind of laid down and just dealt with this like basically heavy edible high type of high that was just kind of just going a little eerie, basically just getting that nauseousness and whatnot from it, just like that when you've had too much in terms of edibles and it's just hitting a little hard on the stomach there. So I just laid and I just tried to deal with it, and I was like slowly but surely feeling better. But anytime I tried to get up or move my head, all of a sudden that nausea and the spins would just kick right back in. So I really was tepid on getting back up and whatnot. And so I just lay there, and I'm in the pitch black darkness, and I just kind of have my eyes closed, and I'm just kind of like just trying to let this moment soak by, and just let the trip happen and just let it be a learning experience and whatnot. And like throughout this time, going through this trip, this whole point, it was actually my mental space was still pretty good. Like I almost was like my inner monologue the whole time was like a motivational speaker trying to like, you're going to do well in your career. You're going to do this. You're all these sort of self-improvement things. Like, this is why you're doing this. And this is like, basically just all the things you would think like a motivational speaker coach, a life coach would be telling you. But it's like my inner monologue telling me that. And I just have this overwhelming like mental positivity going on in my head, while at the same time physically I probably look like a wreck, and I certainly felt like a bit of a wreck just physically, but mentally it was like I was just in this moment, like just really it was just like a motivational moment really, which is just like I said, someone looking on in might look really weird and different, and someone might try and call an ambulance instead. But I basically just laid there, and in the darkness, throughout this nausea, the spins, I suddenly like I get these inner visuals, these inner eye visuals that I really hadn't had too much of with weed. Like I don't know, like this was like a fractal pattern started to appear, and it was like pretty much like the blooming of a flower, like a rose, but it was like this fractal patterning of in the darkness of the like there's just this sort of multicolor like reds and blues and whatnot of this fractal pattern expanding throughout my whole vision. And it would there was another one that kind of popped up, and they would overlap each other and kind of go in, and I just kind of was dealing with this like, man, I haven't tripped like this from weed, to having this kind of inner eye visual thing going on. This is different. And then it basically turned into like this, rather than like this sort of dim multicolor fractal thing, it just, once it all came in through my vision, there was just a point where it fizzled out to like almost like TV static fuzz, but like that same multicolor, all the different colors combined, they're just like little dots of just static that are kicking in, and it just kind of slowly fades back away and whatnot. And that was probably about like what felt like probably about a 15-20 minute trip there of just these beautiful inner eye visuals of just these fractal patterns and whatnot. And it was well, at the same time my gut was feeling pretty wrecked. My mind and my inner my inner mental space, as it were, was really in a in a much different area. And so I just, at a point, once it started to fizzle away and subside, and the nausea and particularly the motion sickness really had kind of subsided there. I felt like, hey, I could probably get up, move, probably need another glass of water or so. So I basically kind of not shoot myself up, but basically like stand up, like probably should have gone pretty slow for how my motion sickness was, as it were. But like I pretty much just stood right up, and then it just hit me all at once, and I could feel it. It's happening. My gut's not taking this any longer. I friggin' purge. I run to the bathroom, and my stomach just, so much came out in that toilet. Oh man, it was a lot. And that first puke wasn't so bad, but once my stomach was going on that 12th, 13th, 14th hurl, like I'm just like puking bile at that point. And I had mac and cheese earlier that day. Like at least it wasn't something rough, like some spicy nachos or something. But it was definitely rough for the stomach. And I was basically like, at that point, it pretty much was back to the sort of drank too much booze, had too much of an edible combined, and just was like dealing with it in the bathroom, just like laying there listening to the clock tick, tick, tick. Like I just trying to bear with this like nausea and just this gross feeling, while also still being like, pretty much edible high at that level. I could still talk. I wasn't like drunk, like I would slur or whatnot. I still had like my mental wits about me, but my feeling was definitely like between the motion sickness, nausea. It just like I just kept just puking and hurling, and it was no fun. But it just like by the end of getting all that stuff out of my stomach, I did feel a bit better. That's usually the case. And I got enough out of me there of just laying there after a bit, after getting all that out of my guts. I just laid in the darkness for probably another, I don't know, like 45 minutes. And then I pretty much had that same kind of like gusto of like, okay, I'm recuperated back just enough again. Let me hop in the shower. Like I just, I hurled a lot. I just want to clean myself up a bit, get feeling refreshed. Maybe a shower will, help me feel better. So I hop in the shower, and I'm still feeling gross, but the shower does help a lot. And it helps me to where I was able to get one more sort of gulp of water in. But that was it. Like I could tell my stomach wasn't going to bear any more of that. Like if I drank any more water than a single gulp, I was going to be back to just puking up, stomach bile back in the toilet again. So I was like, okay, that's all, said and done. Now it was time to go rest. So I stumbled down in my bed. I passed out it like a light. I didn't have any dreams. I didn't have any, weird thing when I was sleeping. But dang, was the next day a rough one. It felt like such a permafry. I don't think I've felt a permafry quite like this in a long time. It was a true weed hangover. It was pretty much like a hangover, but I could tell that weed, like mental grog from, having too much edible or whatnot, that just was layered on top of essentially what felt like a booze hangover, just that nauseous, just gross feeling still. And that following day, just like for the most of the following day, pretty much was in that permafry, just gross feeling state. And then the day after, I was fine. I came back to, and it was, I'm back at it since. But man, was that just like the craziest. Like it's pretty much matched my first time I threw up from weed, as far as like the trippiness of it all. And I had an even crazier body high at the same time. Like it's almost like I had a little less of the head high, but man, that trade-off of a little less of a head high went straight to that body high, and it was just such a crazy trip of an experience, and it's nothing I was expecting. I mean, like I said, I had this stuff before. It's not like I hadn't blended this stuff, previously and tried it, but it just hit me when I took that fat rip. It was the catalyst to something, as far as like me having like smoked a bunch of Delta 8 and THCO that day. Like it triggered some built up into my system that just hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was crazy. But that pretty much concludes the craziest trip I've had on weed, and it's kind of crazy because you think, like, a lot of people say, like, you trip out most when you're in high school because your brain's still developing the most, and it's the most way the weed's gonna fuck your brain up, basically. And I don't know, like, this is surprising to me, like, in my older age, still being able to get that just crazed, trippy experience out of it. It harkens back. Like, it makes me feel like maybe there was something to that older weed, that there was a different cannabinoid ratio there that really did bring on those things a lot more than a lot of stuff nowadays, with people just focusing on THC percentage specifically. Like, I think there is something to be said for that. It was just crazy. In any case, if you do enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, ring that bell. You have a great rest of your day.